The league is being accused of protecting its favorites by any means necessary. And suddenly, the officiating in the Indiana Fever versus Las Vegas Aces series is looking less like incompetence and more like intentional sabotage. Welcome to the playoffs, where the drama off the court is starting to outshine the games themselves. Let's start with what fans are calling the smoking whistle, the refs. Again, but this time it's not just bad calls, it's suspicious calls. Strange whistles, one-sided fouls, and the kind of free throw disparity that has people seriously wondering. Is someone pulling strings behind the scenes? Because in Game 4, Indiana went to the line 34 times. Vegas? Just 11. Now sure, you can chalk some of that up to play style maybe. But when you zoom out and look at the whole series, how consistently the calls have leaned toward the Aces when it matters most, it starts to feel like something deeper, more deliberate. And right in the center of it all, the commissioner. Rumors are swirling. People are saying the league is going all in on protecting its most marketable franchise, the Las Vegas Aces, the defending champs, the team with Asia Wilson, primetime sponsorships, and all the cameras on them.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The theory? Keep the Aces in the spotlight, no matter what it takes, even if it means rigging the road there. But here's the plot twist no one expected. Indiana didn't fold. They didn't flinch. They fought back, with Aaliyah Boston absolutely dominating the paint like she owns real estate under the basket, and Kelsey Mitchell hitting clutch shots like her life depends on it. The Fever forced a Game 5. Injuries? Didn't stop them. Dubious officiating? Only made them fight harder. They're not just playing against the Aces, they're battling the narrative, the machine, the system. And now, everything comes down to the final game. In Vegas, under the brightest lights, with the loudest crowd, and yes, probably the same suspect refs. The Fever have one shot to silence everything. The favoritism, the critics, the conspiracy theories. They've come too far and taken too many hits, literally and metaphorically, to back down now. This isn't just a basketball game. It's a reckoning. So buckle up, because if you thought this was going to be a smooth ride to the finals, think again. We've got controversy, accusations, clutch performances, and maybe, just maybe, a scandal brewing in real time. Is the league really trying to rig the outcome? Or is Indiana about to crash the party and blow the whole thing wide open? Either way, you're not going to want to miss this one. Okay, that headline had everyone doing a double take. But let's be real, that's the level of drama we've reached in this WNBA semifinal series between the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces. Fans are watching these games like they're court depositions. Every whistle, every free throw, every eyebrow raised from the refs is being dissected like evidence in a federal case. And the league? Not exactly helping its own case. Let's talk about Game 4 because this is where everything tipped over. Not just the momentum of the series, but the entire mood of the postseason. Indiana came in locked, loaded, and completely unfazed by the noise. Aaliyah Boston put on an absolute clinic in the paint, while Kelsey Mitchell went off with 25 points, hitting dagger after dagger when it mattered most. But while the Fever were out there grinding for every bucket, the conversation off the court was spinning into chaos again. Why? Because of officiating. Specifically, because of accusations of blatant bias toward the Aces that have been simmering all series long. And then came the stat that blew the roof off. Indiana shot 34 free throws in Game 4. Vegas? 11. That's not a small gap. That's a chasm. And depending on who you ask, it's either justice finally served or the kind of swing that raises major red flags. The Aces, known for their finesse, isolation-heavy offense, and reliance on their stars like Aya Wilson, suddenly found themselves in foul trouble while getting whistled for nearly every bump and contest. Meanwhile, Boston was bulldozing through Vegas's defense and drawing contact like it was part of the scouting report, which it was. Indiana wanted this fight inside. They were playing aggressive, smart, and physical. But when the whistle favored them for once, suddenly it's corruption. This is what happens when the officiating has been inconsistent from the jump. Every game becomes a debate. Every foul becomes a conspiracy theory. And when the league has a track record of protecting its big market teams, especially the aces, you better believe people are going to start asking, who's really pulling the strings here? The fans have receipts. They've been pointing out suspicious calls for weeks. From non-calls on obvious fouls to mystery technicals to questionable ejections. This postseason hasn't exactly screamed officiating excellence. And the perception that the Aces, the WNBA's poster team, are getting every break. Every call, every benefit of the doubt. But Indiana? They didn't get the memo. They refused to fold. They came in with a plan. Pound the paint, make Vegas uncomfortable, and force the officials to make a decision. And when they finally got those calls, when Boston and Mitchell started living at the line, it felt like the universe had tilted, for once, in their direction. That's when a meltdown began. Suddenly the same people who said, let them play, were whining about every foul. The narrative flipped instantly. And the league? Silent. Again, no clarification, no statement, no accountability. And that's the problem. It's not even about whether the calls were right or wrong anymore. It's about consistency. When fans don't trust the whistle, they don't trust the game. And when they don't trust the game, everything starts to look shady. Let's be clear. Indiana didn't win Game 4 because of the refs. They won because they dominated. Aaliyah Boston was unstoppable. Her footwork, her strength, her ability to seal defenders and finish through contact, it was textbook postseason basketball. And Kelsey Mitchell? Ice in her veins. Her outside shooting and ability to create space forced Vegas to stretch their defense, opening up the lane for others. Even with injuries plaguing the roster, the Fever found a way to rally. Lexi Hall played through a back injury, still managing to bring the defensive energy that's defined Indiana's run. Odyssey Sims stepped up big time, bringing poise and control to the backcourt. This wasn't luck. It was execution. And it's not like the Aces didn't show up. Aya Wilson still dropped buckets. Kelsey Plum had moments. But Vegas leaned on their usual game plan, fadeaways, pull-ups, isolation sets. And when the whistles didn't save them this time, the plan fell apart. Now we head into Game 5. Back in Vegas. All the pressure on Indiana. And the question everyone's asking, will the refs show up again? And if they do, which version? Because let's be honest, the entire trajectory of this series could hinge on the first quarter officiating. Will Boston get hacked with no whistle? Will Wilson suddenly be untouchable in the paint again? Will the Aces get back to shooting 25-plus free throws while Indiana's bruised up with nothing to show for it? That's what it's come to. Not basketball tactics, not coaching decisions, but ref control. And the bigger question, what does this say about the league? This was supposed to be a new era, a chance for the WNBA to expand its audience, bring in fresh fans, and showcase the most competitive postseason in years. But instead, the headlines are dominated by officiating controversies and allegations of bias. It's become exhausting. For players, for coaches, for viewers. No one wants to talk about free throw margins. They want to talk about hoops. But the league keeps letting officiating become the story, game after game, series after series. And if Indiana loses Game 5 under shady circumstances, if they come out playing their hearts out and still get buried under one-sided whistles, the backlash will be nuclear. The league knows it, the fans know it, and the players definitely know it. Which is why this final game isn't just a playoff decider. It's a credibility test. The outcome will either validate Indiana's fight or reinforce every conspiracy that's been building since the first round. There's no middle ground anymore. For the Fever, this is legacy-defining. Win, and they break through to the finals against every odd, every injury, and every bias call. Lose, and the narrative writes itself. The league protects its favorites, and everyone else plays uphill. And here's the kicker. Indiana shouldn't even be here. They fought through injuries, doubt, and disrespect to get to this point. No one handed them anything. They earned it. They made tactical adjustments, played unselfishly, and trusted their defense. They played like a team desperate to rewrite their story. Now, they're one win away from flipping the script completely, but they have to do it in Vegas, against a dynasty team. in a hostile arena, with refs who've already been the subject of 2 weeks' worth of scandal. The odds? Still stacked. But this time, Indiana has the momentum and the receipts. So what's it going to be? Will the Fever rise above the noise, control the boards, stick to the paint, and force the league's hand? Or will the Aces cruise to the finals behind another suspiciously well-timed whistle fest? One thing's for sure, this isn't just another game. This is the game. For Indiana, for the league, and for every fan who's sick of being told the drama is all in their heads. Let's know where you stand. Are you riding with the Fever in Game 5? Or do you think the Aces have this locked regardless of how it's called? Drop your prediction in the comments. And if you want a full breakdown, post-game chaos, and maybe another scandal or two, we've got you covered. Hit subscribe and stay tuned. This league isn't done making headlines. Not by a long shot. This entire Indiana Vegas series has morphed into a full-blown referendum on the WNBA's integrity, its officiating, its favoritism, and frankly, its future. What started as a battle between an underdog and a reigning champion has evolved into something far messier, a powder keg of resentment, distrust, and pressure, with the credibility of the league hanging in the balance. Because at this point, fans aren't just tuning in to see who advances to the finals. They're watching to see if the game is called fairly. That's the storyline now. That's how far off the rails this postseason has gone. And we need to talk about how we got here. Again, this isn't about one game. This isn't just about one blown call or one free throw differential. This is the cumulative effect of weeks, months of growing frustration over how the league has handled its biggest stars, its biggest games, and its supposed golden era of attention. Because for every highlight clip of Caitlin Clark draining a logo three or Aya Wilson owning the paint, there's been a whistle, or the lack of one, that changed the game's energy. Let's go back to Game 1. Indiana comes out swinging, but the officiating immediately tilts the momentum. Soft calls on the Fever, silence on contact against the Aces. Vegas walks away with a win, and fans brush it off. It's just one game. Then Game 2, the same trend, and the chatter starts to grow. Coaches start side-eyeing the refs. Fans pull the stats. The free throw disparities start to look like patterns. Then Game 3, more controversy. Another flurry of tweets. Talk shows bring it up. And the WNBA? No comment. No accountability. Then Game 4 explodes, and it's the reverse. Indiana finally gets the whistle. Boston starts going to the line. Mitchell gets contact calls. Suddenly, it's Vegas crying foul. The narrative flips. Now the Aces are getting robbed, and the league is overcorrecting. You can't win. Now when officiating is this inconsistent. And you know who's paying the price for all of it? The players. These are world-class athletes who've trained their entire lives to play at the highest level. They're the ones putting their bodies on the line. They're the ones working through injuries. And now, instead of being allowed to settle the game on the court, they're being overshadowed by questions they have no control over. Let's talk about Aaliyah Boston. She's been nothing short of sensational. Her footwork, her decision-making, her ability to absorb double teams and still get off clean looks, it's next level. She's earned every foul drawn. She's put defenders in foul trouble on her own merit. And yet, somehow, her dominance is being twisted into a talking point about rigged refs. Same goes for Kelsey Mitchell. She's hitting clutch shots, keeping the Fever afloat with her perimeter game, and spacing the floor in a way that forces the Aces to stretch their defense. That's strategy, not scandal. That's execution. Lexi Hull, playing through pain, still diving for loose balls. Odyssey Sims, a spark plug off the bench, controlling tempo when it matters. These players are doing their jobs. But every time they get rewarded for playing smart, physical basketball, there's this cloud hanging over it. Was it legit, or was it league manipulation? That's what happens when officiating becomes the main character. And you can see it wearing on the Aces, too. Aya Wilson, one of the most dominant players in the game, now finds herself under a microscope. Every time she goes to the line, or doesn't, it becomes a headline. Kelsey Plum can't drive without people analyzing whether her defender breathed on her too hard or actually committed a foul. The whole thing has devolved into an endless cycle of screenshot replays and social media detective work. Meanwhile, the league is playing ostrich, head firmly in the sand. No referee rotation, no statements, no explanations, just silence. And that silence speaks volumes. It says the league would rather protect optics than integrity. It says they'll let players and fans deal with the fallout, as long as the drama keeps driving clicks. But the problem is, this kind of drama burns out your audience. People aren't excited. They're exhausted. They don't want to second-guess every whistle. They want to celebrate elite basketball. But right now, no one trusts what they're seeing. In Game 5, it's the final test. Because here's the real issue. If the Aces come out and get every favorable whistle in front of their home crowd, the conspiracy theories will hit maximum volume. People will stop watching for the basketball and start watching just to confirm their suspicions. And if Indiana gets whistled into submission, no matter how well they play, the narrative will be locked in. The league picked a winner. And that's dangerous. Not just for this series, but for the WNBA's entire reputation. We are watching, in real time, a potential legacy shift for the Indiana Fever. A franchise that has clawed its way back into relevance. That's built around young, hungry talent. That's showing the league what toughness, strategy, and chemistry look like. They are this close to their first finals appearance in years, and they've done it by playing smart, not flashy. By executing under pressure. By refusing to fold, no matter the odds, the injuries, or the officiating. And Vegas? They're still the champs. They've still got the star power. But they've also got the narrative advantage. And a lot of people believe that's what the league wants. A dynasty team in the finals. An easy sell. A familiar face. Which brings us back to the headline. No, the commissioner didn't literally take bribes. But when the league continually refuses to address officiating issues, when it keeps assigning the same crews to controversial games, when it punishes coaches for speaking out instead of fixing the problem, it starts to feel like they're not even trying to hide their biases. It's a different kind of corruption. Not bags of cash, but a slow, grinding erosion of trust. A system that benefits some and burdens others. A structure that whispers, this isn't about fair play. It's about marketability. So what's the move now? Simple. The league needs to let Game 5 be about basketball. Call it clean. Call it consistent. Let the players decide the outcome, not the whistle. Because if this final game is marred by the same drama as the rest of the series, if the refs swing the momentum early, the damage won't just hit Indiana. It'll hit everyone. The fans, the media, the future of the league. This is the WNBA's shot to show it still values competition over control. That it respects the athletes who built this moment. That it's willing to face the heat and do better. Will it? That's the real Game 5 question. All eyes are on the court now. And not just on the scoreboard, but on who gets the benefit of the doubt. Who gets the calls? Who's allowed to play through contact? And who's punished for breathing wrong? And more than anything, who walks away with a win that actually means something? At this point, it's not even about who's more talented. It's about who the league is going to allow to win. That's the energy heading into Game 5, and it's not coming from a fringe group of salty fans or Twitter trolls. This is coming from everywhere. Analysts, players, coaches, broadcasters trying so hard not to say the quiet part out loud. And that quiet part? It's turning into a deafening chorus. What exactly is going on here? The Indiana Fever have done everything right. They've clawed their way out of irrelevance, leaned into their young core, and played their hearts out through injuries, underdog pressure, and yes, shady officiating. They've adapted every step of the way. They shifted their offense to run through Boston when needed. They gave Mitchell room to operate. They leaned on Lexi Hull and Odyssey Sims to do the gritty stuff, the unsung hero stuff. And they didn't blink. And now, on the brink of their biggest win in years, they have to face the final boss. Not just the Aces, but the environment. Because make no mistake, playing in Vegas for Game 5 is already hard enough. You're facing a stacked roster with championship DNA, a loud, ruthless home crowd, and the weight of a league that really wants its dynasty team in the finals. Add in the ref drama that's followed this series like a bad smell. You've basically got Indiana walking into the lion's den wearing a stay costume. The question on everyone's mind isn't can the Fever win? It's will they even be allowed to? And yeah, that sounds harsh. But let's be honest. This league has let the officiating spiral so far out of control that people are no longer debating basketball. They're debating motives. Fans are tracking which refs are assigned to which games. Coaches are getting fined or suspended just for stating what everyone else is already saying. And the WNBA? Still pretending nothing is wrong. It's wild, because on paper, this matchup should be everything the league wants. A dominant, seasoned Vegas squad versus a scrappy, upstart Indiana team. You got stars on both sides. You've got compelling narratives. A possible new era being born. But instead of leaning into that, we're dealing with conspiracy theories, scoreboard skepticism, and free throw audits like it's Watergate. And while all this swirls, the actual athletes are left to fight through the noise. Aaliyah Boston? She's not just dominating physically. She's doing it while constantly being double-teamed, while everyone questions if her free throws are deserved. She's reading defenses like a veteran and still not getting the credit she deserves because everyone's too busy debating foul counts. Kelsey Mitchell? Every time she scores in crunch time, people don't talk about her shot selection or her footwork or her poise. They talk about whether the refs let her get away with something. That's the cost of letting officiating define your playoffs. It diminishes everyone. And let's not forget, the Vegas Aces aren't the villains here. Aya Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, they're ballers. They've earned everything they've accomplished. But it's the perception, not the reality, that's ruining the story. When fans start believing the league wants Vegas to win more than they want a fair outcome, it casts a shadow over even the most legit victories. And that perception, it's not going away unless the WNBA takes real steps to fix it. Game 5 is a litmus test. If this game is called clean, if both teams are allowed to play their styles, if the outcome comes down to execution, not whistles, then maybe the league can start rebuilding its image. But if this game turns into another whistle fest that conveniently favors one side, if Indiana can't so much as breathe on an Aces player without getting whistled, while Boston is mugged down low with no call, you can kiss the league's credibility goodbye. Because this isn't just about Indiana. It's about every team watching, every player wondering if their hard work will matter next season, every coach wondering if speaking out will cost them games or their job, and every fan wondering if what they're watching is real. The WNBA has a shot right now, a shot to let the game be the story. A shot to show that competition matters more than brand protection. But it's only going to happen if they step out of the way. Let the players decide Game 5. Not the refs. Not the commissioner. Not the corporate agenda. Because when the final buzzer sounds, no one should be asking, was that fair? They should be saying, that was earned. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who you got, Fever or Aces? And more importantly, do you trust the refs to stay out of it? Hit subscribe if you're tired of the spin and want the real story. Because whatever happens in Game 5, we're definitely talking about it.